Welcome to Ask a Kansan.
A podcast connecting, uncovering, and amplifying Kansas.
And I'm Sydney.
And I'm Gus.
So today it may look a little different than what you're used to. We are in Greensburg, Kansas. So the interviews that you're going to see today, we are on location. We brought the whole crew. The reason kind of we're here is if you are a constant listener, you may notice in some of our intros or outros, we do these fun little tidbits. And Greensburg just kept coming up between, being on the 8 wonders of Kansas, the tornado, or
We're in the rectangle.
like different things that just kept coming up. And so Greensburg actually started listening and they said, hey, come out. And so now we're here.
Here we are. And, we will recognize that the story of Greensburg has been told many times over the years. We're not the first to be here. Obviously, I think there's been national news coverage here in the last month even. And so we're hoping we're a little different. No guarantees on that front, but we had some great conversations today. And so, we hope you enjoy them. We'll let each of our interviewees introduce themselves to you. And then we'll come back at the end and I guess give you some summating thoughts.
Yeah. So without any further ado, here are our interviews in Greensburg. So you mentioned that you were in school during the actual tornado. Did you know what was happening? Were you watching the news?
When the tornado happened, I was not aware. I was not watching the news. It was a Friday night in a college town, so I was not sitting at home watching the news. But probably about half an hour after the tornado hit, I got a call from my dad's sister asking if I knew if my parents were okay. And my question to her was, why would they not be okay? That's when I found out about the tornado. And then the rest of that night, I was definitely watching the news and seeing the devastation. And thankfully, about 2 or 3 in the morning that night, my parents were finally to get a call into me to let me know that, they were okay. So that was a relief. And so that's kind of how I found out about the tornado.
Because to kind of put things in perspective, it's 2007. It's not like we had cell phones, but they weren't as used as they are today. A lot of people said landlines. Some of the landlines worked, some of them didn't. So getting communication out to family was hard for a lot of people. So it's May, you had a week of school left. What was it like? What was your first reaction when you drove into town?
They cleared out town that weekend to do search and rescue. So they let residents back into town that Monday after the tornado. So I came in with my parents that Monday, and really just my reaction was how total the devastation was. There was literally no landmark really in town that I remembered that was unscathed. All the trees were gone, pretty much all the buildings were completely just piles of debris at that point. So just unrecognizable is how it was my first reaction to Greensburg. It was just no longer the town that I remember.
So I'm sure that you've heard story after story after story of people who experienced the tornado. And a lot of people mentioned that there was a distinct smell, like a tornado smell. Did you experience that at all? I was very curious on this one.
That's obvious. Actually, absolutely a thing. It's just a combination of everything was wet because in addition to the tornado, we had several inches of rain that weekend, and just all that moisture getting into the wood and everything else that was splintered and scattered about had a very distinct smell. Actually had a distinct name as well. It was referred to as tornado splat.
Tornado splat.
Yes.
And so was that also if people can imagine, so roofs are off, walls are missing, house is completely blown over, but yet some of their stuff still was fine, but all of the insulation was everywhere. So even stuff that maybe were in a closet untouched, it still had insulation, fiberglass everywhere. What was that like for families cleaning up, or even your own family, of realizing I could still have stuff left, but it's actually destroyed between all the rain and the debris and all that?
Yeah, and that's the terrible thing, is even if part of the house survived, it was sitting there probably, damp from rainwater with other debris around it for at least a few days. So really just families had to go through and kind of pick what they could and salvage. But for the most part, most homes and families in Greensburg more or less lost everything.
With all the devastation, there were deaths. Did you know anybody in that group?
I didn't know any of the individuals killed in the tornado very well. I was very young when I left Greensburg after high school, and most of the individuals who were killed in the tornado were older, so I didn't know them very well. But we were very lucky that more people didn't die in the tornado. Given the scale and totality of the devastation in town, just have to give thanks to the warning systems we had, our emergency management, and storm spotters throughout that night. The town had plenty of warning, over 20 minutes actually, that storm sirens went off to give people time to get to shelter, which is a big reason why, of 1,200 people who were in town and the entire town is destroyed, more or less no structures standing, only a handful of people lost their lives.
What was the hardest part about cleanup?
Cleanup was a very lengthy process, and that's kind of where I stepped in to helping with recovery efforts in Greensburg. Believe it or not, the first job I had when I started was organizing and planning out porta potties for cleanup.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But there's a lot that goes into cleanup, and we were helped very much by help from the Kansas Department of Transportation, which provided a lot of personnel and equipment. Basically what the city did is just told residents that if you can get your debris to the curbside, we will get it out. But that was a months-long process that took pretty much the entire summer after the tornado to get the majority of lots cleaned up.
So cleanup is happening. At what point did the table start turning to, okay, what's next? What's the future?
Well, I think in the weeks immediately following the tornado, there was a lot of maybe uncertainty amongst the townspeople of, do we even rebuild? It's a small town in Kansas, and is there anything that, for us to come back to? Is there going to be, a job to come back to? Is my business going to rebuild? Is there going to be a school for our kids to go to? And I honestly think the biggest turning point after the tornado that got people thinking about the future and really committing them to rebuilding their own homes and businesses is the superintendent of our schools, Darren Hedrick at the time, just a few weeks after the tornado, came out and made a public statement that the school's doors will be open for school in August. Just to give parents confidence that, oh, okay, if we stick around and stay, our kids are going to have a school to go to. And that really, I think, was kind of a catalyst for getting people thinking about, okay, yeah, we're going to stay, we're going to rebuild our homes, our businesses, and our civic infrastructure.
Once recovery started happening, plans started being made, what's Greensburg like today?
Greensburg, I'd say, is still it's a small Kansas town, very close-knit community. Everyone knows everyone's name. I'd say the biggest unique thing about Greensburg is we have a lot of infrastructure and amenities that most small towns don't have. Just things that we lost in the tornado, we're able to build back new, where a lot of small towns don't have new things.
What a great example is we're outside the theater. Can you, you're just telling us how there was some property swapping in the school and there's like community. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, there was a lot of planning that went into the rebuild and just trying to build back the best community we could as efficiently as we could. So this theater actually, originally the Twilight Theater was a block north of us on Main Street. They weren't able to build a new modern theater in the space that they had. But actually the school owned this property that we're standing on, that the new theater is on, and the school donated that property to the theater as long as the theater agreed to let the school use this as an auditorium whenever they wanted to. So that saved the school and taxpayers money because we didn't have to build back an auditorium in the school, but we got our theater back too. So just cooperation amongst the community.
And the kids get this brand new space that probably has the lighting, the sound, and everything that you probably wouldn't normally get in a small town kind of theater.
Yeah,
right?
it's a fully modern theater with computer-controlled lighting, sound equipment. It's got the largest screen between Wichita and Denver in the United States. So, yeah, it's a great facility, and we're glad that we're putting it to multiple uses, whether that's not just screening movies, but it's got a full stage, again, for the school and the auditorium. So there's a group here that does puts on plays a couple times a year, so it's just a great facility to have in our community.
So Greensburg, there was a green initiative. Can you tell me a little bit about how that came to be?
To tell you the truth, that was before I got started in the local government. I started in I first got elected to city council in late 2007. That ball was already rolling at that point.
Really? So it was pre-tornado. They were already thinking about creating green, or
it was just after the tornado.
Just after? Okay.
And honestly, I don't know this for a fact. I don't have firsthand knowledge, but if I were to give credit for that, I would say that probably came from the office of the Kansas governor at the time, Kathleen Sebelius, who maybe planted that seed, and then the community kind of took that ball and ran with it.
What's the population today of Greensburg?
Population today of Greensburg is just under 900.
Okay.
So a little smaller than the time of the tornado, but really, if you kind of chart the population of small Kansas towns over time, honestly, I don't know that the tornado had a huge long-term impact on the population of Greensburg. It was a kind of a blip in the radar, but we're probably about where we would have been tornado or no tornado.
With you as you're the county administrator, what's the future for Greensburg?
Future, we're still trying to grow the community and just make this the best place to live that we possibly can. A big focus of ours in recent years has actually been on housing development. The city and county lost a lot of housing stock at the time of the tornado, and we're still short on housing, so we've been working on building more housing. And we're excited in the last couple of years, we've added over a dozen new housing units.
Wow.
And continuing to work to try and add more. And just trying to make this a great place to live and work and grow our community and just keep that small town great place to live atmosphere.
We find somewhere deep inside of us that urge to keep moving forward. How does that experience, or how does that feeling resonate with Greensburg, but not just Greensburg, but with Kansas?
I think one of the biggest lessons you could take away from Greensburg and our experience from the tornado and since is just how important 3 C's are: cooperation, compassion, and community. Without a lot of cooperation between various local entities, businesses, and individuals and homes, a lot of compassion from our outside neighbors who gave us a lot of help, and without a deep sense of community, we would not be the community we are today after the tornado. And I think you're going to find that that's not unique to Greensburg, that's everywhere in Kansas and throughout the United States. Just keep those in mind, and you will make where you live a better place to live.
Well, hi.
Hello.
Thank you for having us here to Greensburg and to whatever this is behind me. Can you tell me where we are?
Yeah, so welcome to Greensburg and the Big Well Museum. So this is the largest hand-dug well in the nation. It was finished in 1888, and it's been a huge attraction for Greensburg for many, many years now.
Wow. I have a lot of questions, but first, who are you? What do you do here in Greensburg?
My name is Heather Bailey. I'm the director of the Big Well Museum, but also for tourism for the city.
Wonderful. So why did Greensburg go to all this trouble to build a well?
We needed a well for our growing population. And in the late 1800s, you needed to attract people to be able to grow as a town. One of the ways that you did that was being attractive to the railroad that was ever expanding west. So they needed a really large and reliable water source to supply water to the steam engines. The more trains that were coming out here, the more people that would come out here, and the more growth was possible.
So did other towns, I mean, not everybody dug a big hole in the ground. Like, is there a reason why you all did?
Greensburg is flashy, I think. I always wanted to make a splash. They started calling it the world's largest hand-dug well pretty much from inception.
Oh, wow.
So we know now that that's not necessarily true. We are technically the world's second largest hand-dug well, but it's a little harder to fact check those things in 1887. So
Fair.
But yeah, they needed a large and reliable source. They knew there was water here. There were already windmills, but they needed to make some big headlines. And you know, all publicity is good publicity, even in the 1800s.
So as we've been driving around town, reflecting on what all this town's been through, it's clear that there has to be some sort of spirit to the people in order to have the resilience to get through all this stuff. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, so the really cool thing about Greensburg is even from inception, there's always been people that wanted to grow and achieve things here. So, obviously they were pioneers kind of in the Old West sense, but that spirit has always stuck around with Greensburg. And we really saw that in kind of the second rebuilding.
Gotcha.
Or second building, I guess.
That makes sense. So the well was dug kind of to attract people. Is it fair to say that it kind of maybe not fell into disrepair, but wasn't as much of the center of the community when the tornado happened, or was it?
It has been a huge tourist attraction, and people really took a lot of pride in the well, even at the time of the tornado.
Okay.
The Chamber of Commerce had taken care of it for a long time. I think in the 50s, we have a picture here in the museum of a family stopping. They were the 1 millionth signature in the book.
That's unfathomable.
Yes, and even in 2000, some of the well had become weathered because it was before this museum, the well was covered but exposed to the elements. So you could just park on the street and walk right up to it.
So there's like a shade structure over it?
Yes,
Okay.
there's a big concrete cover with kind of like a dog cage over the top. So you could actually walk what would be to the middle of the well and look straight down. So in 2007, there was an initiative to do some repairs to the outside wall that was stuck up in the well. So it really was a great deal, a great source of pride for the community.
So how did this well go from a thing with a concrete cover on top to this beautiful facility we see today?
So after the tornado, Greensburg knew that there was a much bigger story to tell than just our world's largest hand-dug well, nation's largest hand-dug well. And that's how the museum came about. So they knew from very early on in the rebuilding process that they wanted to do more. This is actually the second design that they settled on. But it has turned out just so much better than they really could have even imagined from the beginning. So the museum now is built around the well. It talks about the founding of Greensburg and the big well. It also incorporates a lot of information about the EF5 tornado and then how we kind of rose from the ashes, Greensburg rose from the ashes and rebuilt green or sustainably.
Okay, so we kind of talked about where the well came from, what you all did to build this facility. Tell us about, what it's like today. Who's coming? What is there to see?
So we're still a really well-known roadside attraction. In 2008, we were named one of the 8 wonders of Kansas. So we get people from all over the world, 40, 50 other countries some years, up to 20,000 people. Some people, of course, just happen upon us as they're driving Highway 54 400. A lot of people see us on their atlas and make sure that we're a stop on their cross-country treks. So we're really grateful for the amount of people that come see us, and those that are still interested. We get people, of course, that are interested in the well because it is so old at this point. But we also have tourists that are storm chasers or really interested in weather themselves. And then we have those that are interested in how we rebuilt green or sustainably. And one of the cool things about Greensburg now is because they went through that process, and a lot of the things that Greensburg did were experimental, one of a kind, first of their kind. We're now able to help other communities that maybe have experienced devastation. So we've had groups from overseas come to see how we rebuilt and how our new green energy facilities work. We've had other cities that were burned out in wildfires, experienced tornadoes, floods, devastation, very similar to ours, that need hope. They need kind of to see that rebuilding is possible and can be done. and just get some answers to the technical questions. One of the things that people experience is, where do we even start? There's a lot of shock when your whole town is destroyed, and it can feel very large and hopeless. So they come here and see that it is possible, and figure out, the funding and some of the practical steps that they can take. And if nothing else, Greensburg is an amazing place to come if you're looking for that kind of hope.
It strikes me that you probably like kinship between communities that have kind of maybe not lost everything, but have lost a lot. Those of us that live in communities that haven't been affected in that way, we probably don't understand what it's like. And so it's neat to hear how you can connect with other communities in that way.
Yeah.
For my last question, I want to go deep, literally. And this is kind of, I'm the co-host of the podcast that likes to get a little philosophical. And so I'm less interested in like objective truth or anything like that, and more just your opinion. Why are people so interested in a big hole in the ground?
I think because it's a little weird. Basically, people come in, it kind of looks almost like a medieval castle when you're actually down. And people don't have access to wells maybe anymore like they used to. The construction itself, it's almost 140 years old. So it is a marvel. And I think when people actually come in and get down inside the well and are surrounded by the rock and the masonry, those things start to click. Like, oh, they had to quarry these huge stones by wagon from 10 miles away. There weren't even roads for the wagons at that point, all hand dug. So quarrying was by hand, and digging the well, just the hole 109 feet down, was all dug by hand. So the fanciest piece of machinery that they had was a wheel or a pulley. And I think in this modern age of technology, that's actually pretty fascinating to people to kind of get back to their roots like that.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for letting us into your space and welcoming us here to Greensburg.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for sitting down with us. Can you introduce yourself for us?
I'm Angela Walters. I grew up in Greensburg, graduated from Greensburg High School, and I am a junior high English language arts teacher and the assistant forensics coach at the high school.
And where are we at right now?
We are at the Kiowa County Historical Museum in Soda Fountain, so probably the best drinks you'll get right here in Greensburg.
And can you give us a little bit of background of why this is so important to Greensburg, or what the history is?
Yeah, so definitely as a kid, as you became older, you would walk down to Hunter Drug and go to the old-fashioned soda fountain, get a drink, sit in the booths, sit in, the tables, and then after the tornado, that was such a part of so many kids' childhoods. And just memories. And so it was really important to the people in Greensburg to bring it back. And so as you can see, what's behind the counter is the original, and then we have the replica of what it looked like before the tornado.
Were you here for the tornado? Can you give us a little context?
Sure. So my folks were living in Greensburg at the time. I had moved to Colorado. And so I was living in Colorado. That the night of the tornado, I was receiving calls from people in Greensburg. I knew it was really bad. And then about 10 o'clock, 10:30, just made that choice to just throw stuff in the car and drive through the night to get back.
What was it like coming back?
Pretty surreal. I had went to school for broadcast journalism, and so I had worked as a producer, and I had seen so many footages of families reunited at storm shelters. And so to actually find my parents at a Red Cross shelter, and it felt surreal. Once we got into the town, it looked like a war zone. I'm sure, in the pictures, I don't know if it does it justice, because you also had police officers making sure the city was safe. You also had National Guard troops here. But all the trees were completely Just the whole town was gutted. The trees, all the branches were pulled off. It looked pretty horrific.
And they had to clear the town, right? So they cleared the town for a whole week.
So the tornado happened on a Friday. They didn't let the residents back in until Monday morning.
So where did everyone go?
So a lot of families got hotel rooms nearby, or they stayed at the shelters. So the neighboring towns were wonderful and opened their doors at the schools. So we're able to stay there on cots and then come back in on Monday. But again, you couldn't stay. So people had a curfew. They could come in and get as many belongings as they could, and then they would have to leave.
So going back to, you came in on that Monday, tornado was Friday. What was Monday like coming back in?
I think that people in Greensburg did experience those different emotions that you would with a death. Like there was just that shock initially. And so what's people might not understand, they wanted to really eliminate the chance of looting. So you would write on your car the addresses where your vehicle would be at. And so we had put down my address, my aunt and uncle's, and then my grandmother's. And so we ended up just walking from one place to the next, but total devastation. So at my house, there was still at least a structure. Obviously, there's no electricity, so it's kind of dark. But as you check out the house, we could see a coating of the dust that the tornado debris had left. But we could still pull stuff out. At my aunt and uncle's, the roof had completely blown off. So all the rain that had happened after the tornado just completely damaged all of their family heirlooms. And then at my grandmother's, the only thing that was left was the dirt foundation. So a 2-story house had completely been blown away somewhere. What's kind of interesting, they found one of her checks in Claflin.
Oh my gosh.
So, it was very surreal initially. There was a lot of shock. A lot of us that had graduated from Greensburg High School just met in the parking lot, the front lawn, just walked around, hugged each other. It was very emotional. The school is in ruins. And so it was very, very emotional.
After you see all this aftermath, there's rebuilding. You went back to Colorado. What point did you say, I need to come back to Kansas?
It was a little bit later. My kids were getting older, and I just saw the value of the education in Greensburg, the people here, the kind of childhood and teenage years that I had that were safe, where kids could walk around town. And you had eyes on them from parents, but you just knew that the kids were good kids doing stuff like coming to the soda fountain and going to the pool. And so that's the childhood I wanted for my kids. And so that was part of my decision.
Do your kids kind of understand kind of what was before and what is now of Greensburg?
They do to an extent. I mean, that's part of what happens in a natural disaster. My kids will never get to see the house I grew up in, experience Christmas morning with, the stockings on the fireplace, because that doesn't exist anymore. So they do understand. They see the lot that is now all that's left of where I grew up. They see some places in town, and I do tell them and show them pictures of what Greensburg used to look like, but this is the Greensburg they know. And there's still so much here that's great memories for them. So I think, at the school, it's so much better than the school I grew up going to. I mean, if I'm being honest, it's a beautiful facility. The gymnasiums can host and do host tournaments. Our football field is top tier. We host the state football games for 8-man and 6-man in Greensburg. So it's different, but in some ways it's better.
A lot of times we connect with our past, and nostalgia is the thing. Is it hard to live in a place that you're like, I have so many memories here, but they're gone?
It is sad, because growing up in a small town, you don't necessarily remember what every street's called, but you have landmarks. And so I remember, you turn it Uncle Jerry's house or turn at the pool. Well, those landmarks are not there, or they've changed. So that's been hard. And all the things I'd love to show my kids of things I did and places I went, a lot of them are no longer here.
When now that your kids are kind of creating their own memories and their own lives here, what's kind of your hope for them?
I hope that they understand just the people here are incredible. What a great community this has been. And they do love the school in Greensburg. They've seen all the opportunities that they have there that they didn't have prior at their school in Colorado. So they're really enjoying it. So my hope is that they embrace this time in Greensburg, and whatever they do in life, they're successful, but have fond memories of Greensburg just like I do.
How are we getting the word out? How are you guys getting the word out of come back, come here, live here? There's really cool things here. There's opportunity. So how have you guys been dealing with that?
I think, there is some limitations about the amount of jobs that our community has, but I think in general, people do see the benefit of coming back. I know of several of my classmates that are in Greensburg or the surrounding areas that moved from Florida back because we do value these, this hometown, the people here, the values here, the opportunities here. So I think, I don't know if there's a true calling, but I think people reach a point in their life where they see the importance of that.
So you're a teacher now.
Yeah.
Tell us what it's like teaching in this new school with all these great things.
It feels like coming home in a sense. What I had alluded to about the night of the tornado and after, there was pieces of this school that were on the lawn, and the folks at the school did not care if you took pieces. So I took a couple of the block glass, I guess it was part of the window tiles that were in the old gymnasium, and I just held on to them, and now I've placed them in my classroom.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
It's kind of like a full circle moment. I pointed that out to my students that this is a piece of the old school right here. I do have pictures of the old school in my classroom so kids can see that and ask me questions. But all the kids that I teach, they were born after the tornado. So there's a little bit of educating them about what Greensburg was like before, and then also just understanding that the town's changed and maybe your grandparents are still not quite the same. We still do more in the city than it was.
So the mascots are different. We went from the Rangers to the Mavericks. Do you know what kind of initiated that change?
So it's my understanding at the time, the principal and the administration, they wanted to pick a mascot because they were consolidating initially the Greensburg Rangers with the Haviland Dragons, but also Molinville had been consolidated in the past. So they wanted to pick a mascot that was important to our culture here, so the Maverick, but also different school colors so that no school felt like they were leaving one out. So we have the burnt orange and white, which are now the Mavericks.
With all the communities, surrounding communities, we've talked a little bit with Matt earlier about the resilience of Greensburg. Can you tell us what it was like, one, for all your surrounding communities just to come together? And two, was that a decision maker for you in coming back?
I do think one thing immediately after the tornado, you did see humanity at its best. I mean, the people in Greensburg, we had no running water, we had no way to feed ourselves when we were over here gathering belongings, and outside organizations, area churches really stepped it up and came in and helped give meals at night. And it was really nice for the people in Greensburg to be able to finally see each other, talk about the state of their houses, where they were at, if they were going to rebuild. It brought people together in those moments. And from that, I think when there's been other tragedies that have happened since then, because we know what it's like to be on the receiving end, I think people in Greensburg definitely are very good at supporting people with food, with financial help. with whatever they can do because we've all lived it and experienced it. It's just a great community all around.
And did that kind of sense of community really help make that decision in moving back?
Yeah, I knew that the people here are great, faith-based families that value the same things I do for my kids. And so I knew that by moving back, my kids were going to grow up with kids from families that, I mean, there's kids in my daughter's class that I graduated in the same class as they did. And so I knew that they would be coming back to a community that the parents are there on Friday night to support their kids at the games. When it comes to forensics or theater or music, the community shows up. They want the school to thrive and do well. We see that with the JAG program. They adopt seniors and go to the senior center. So we see like just how important each generation is to each other, and it's been great.
We hope you enjoyed those interviews with, Matt, Angela, and Heather. First and foremost, thank you, Stacy and Heather, for hosting us.
For feeding us and caffeinating us.
And feeding us and caffeinating us through this journey today. And also a big shout out to our crew. They're staring at us right now, but we had to get up really early today
Yes.
to make this day happen. So
thanks to everybody who made it happen.
Yes.
For sure.
So what were kind of your key takeaways for today?
Yeah, good question. I think the first thing that caught my attention in town today, Julie and I went out and shot some B-roll of just random things. And there was a storefront not too far from here down the block, and the awning over the storefront must have been impacted by wind in the not too distant past. And somebody had gone through and meticulously like zip tied it back together.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a good little peek into the spirit of a community, because it tells me that like somebody is proud enough of that awning to make it look good, to put in the effort of going out there and doing each one of those zip ties to try to make that look better. And maybe they don't have the resources right now to get a new awning, which is fine. And maybe, we all make business decisions, right? But they're proud of their town. This is a place where people show up for each other, and they when times get tough, people get to work.
And really on the collaboration front. So when we were talking just in general to people, either before or after our interviews or even during the interviews, the main thing is everyone work together. And there's definitely communities in Kansas that can learn from this, that maybe, if you think about, the school board, the education, high school, basically, school system was like, hey, you can have this land, but we need an auditorium. Can you help us with the auditorium along with your theater? Like, that's a huge thing that you probably won't see in a lot of communities, because everyone is so kind of, I don't know, bound up in like, I'm going to need this someday. You can't have it.
Yeah.
Like, yes, that's probably true, but imagine what would happen if you actually talk to them and work through things. I'm not saying it's that easy, but yeah.
Heather told us over lunch that there's a lot of people who are just done talking about the tornado in Greensburg, and I think that's
100% fair.
So true, probably, and we can't always pick the things that affect us in our lives, and we can't ever completely move on from them. So I don't want to project that onto Greensburg necessarily, but I think that it's clear that the tornado was almost a galvanizing event for Greensburg, that it clarified for a lot of people what their commitment to their community was and is and will be. And so any community, be it in Kansas or elsewhere, that faces a catastrophe like this or similar, has to make some of those difficult decisions. And so we're seeing the repercussions, the product, the the end, not the end state necessarily, but what all that work paid for is here today. And so it's exciting to see where Greensburg goes next.
And if you really are looking for more perspectives on kind of the tornado in general and the devastation, there's an amazing kind of mini doc that was produced. I'll link it. I can't remember the name of it. But the gal who produced it is actually a cousin of Angela, who we interviewed today. And her whole family was here. So at the age of 10, she was here cleaning up. She remembers a lot of it, and she was able to interview, storm chasers and first responders and her own family members, and just really puts an amazing light on how everyone was feeling during that time. And so we'll link it. It gives a lot more insight too, if you really want to kind of look back at what 2007, May 4th, 2007 is. Yeah. Gives a really good light on it.
And I think like anything that we cover, like you can find out a lot of things on the internet, but come here, come visit Greensburg, go to the big well, go walk downtown, see what this place is like, because there's no substitute for the real deal.
Well, the other thing is, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent now.
Do it.
So the other thing is, if you think about how big Greensburg is, what do we say? The population was 900 now, 800, 900 between there. Mm-hmm. There's an art center. There is a theater, a movie theater, plus an auditorium for actual theater. There is a beautiful high school. There is that has all these other amenities attached onto it. There's so many things here that you do not get in any other small town at all. So just when you think of that in perspective to even bigger cities of 10,000 or 15,000 who also barely have those things, it's amazing.
We talk about the richness of life in rural places. Mm-hmm. Greensburg is one of those places that has the richness of rural life with some more of those amenities of urban life too, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, and a hospital. Forgot to mention that.
It's the cherry on top for Sydney.
Cherry on top.
Well, I think that pretty much concludes the episode. Do you have anything else?
No, I think that's all I got.
Well, as always, thanks for watching. This is obviously a little different format, so we appreciate you being patient with us. We would appreciate some feedback on, first of all, do you like this? Would you like to see more of it? We're not going to do one of these every week because it's a lot of work for everybody. But we are open to doing more of these, and we'd like to have conversations with folks that are interested in doing them with us. Now, the caveat I'll say to that is we want there to be a story. It can't just be like we're not just going there to help you sell your community. We're going there to tell a story too. So if that describes your community, if you know of a story that's worthy of this kind of coverage, please let us know.
Yeah. And as usual, find us on all social medias, like, subscribe, share with a friend.
Yep. Well, thank you very much for tuning in to another episode of Ask a Kansan, and hope you have a good one.